How's it going? It's maybe day 26 of my challenge here. Every time I get in, I get this like back itch in the same spot. It's got to have something to do with the skin and the dry heat or whatever. But anyway, been thinking about, I have daughters, 2 girls and a son, and I came from a family of boys. I was one of 3 boys, and basically kind of male-dominated family structures for most of my family and what we knew. And the reality is that we were raised with some physical discipline. So that's something that I have chosen to not repeat into raising my children now. And, I'd say as far as the implementation of that, a couple things have really worked out well for me. One being having daughters first. I have to say I probably would be more of inclined to have repeated the process that I was raised with. And an example is if I was reaching for a hot stove or something like that, I would get a hand slap. Okay, and if I was acting up, I would get a spanking, and when I really acted up, what would happen is we would have to bring a paddle. Me and my brother would have to bring a paddle to my father and give him the paddle, and then take our shots, right? Take our paddle strikes, which has all sorts of psychological and confrontational aspects of going to get the instrument of your demise and things like that. And I can remember that we'd bring the paddle, and my older brother, I would go first, and I would be getting my whacks, and I would be crying, and as soon as it stopped, I would walk around the corner, and then my older brother would be getting his paddling, and I would stand there and I'd make faces at him and stuff like that. So was I being hit as hard as he could? Was it to teach a point? Was I getting used to the pain? All of these things I often wonder. But, having daughters, things are very different. So, and of course my wife was having wanted nothing to do with any of that kind of stuff. So I had to be more patient, and I had to be, find another way, it just, there was no way I was going to start hitting my little girls. And I read this book called Magical Child, Magical Parent, by, I can't believe Joseph Chilton Pearce. Okay, and it's kind of the book is a little bit of a summary of maybe 10 different books from Joseph Chilton Pearce. And in it, I was reading about the effects of physical discipline on boys and girls. Now, the effects on girls is arguably can be looked at as worse because it actually sets them up to be in abusive relationships. But what it does for boys is it makes them more likely to take unnecessary risks. And that really stuck with me, because I'd always wondered why, as a younger boy, I was willing to do ridiculous things that were extremely high risk. So I was thinking back, and we, growing up in Queens, we were really close to a railroad station, and when we were 12 or 13 years old, we started going down by the railroad tracks, and we would walk from one station to the next on the railroad tracks, and that then escalated into going on top of the rail cover for the third rail, which is obviously electrocution zone. So I can remember jumping up and down on that third rail guard over and over. And I mean, we were young. We were 12 years old, 11 years old. And then there was one day where me and several of my friends were hanging out and down by the train station, and we're actually talking about some like Warner Brothers cartoon, and it was something like Bugs Bunny was having tea with a lion, right? Lion's trying to kill Bugs. Usual Warner Brothers story. Something bad is going to happen to him. So Bugs Bunny tricks him into having tea. And he's saying, "Oh, do you want your tea? Do you want how many lumps of sugar would you like in your tea?" And the lion says, "Well, I want a whole lot of lumps." And then, of course, he puts out his teacup, and Bugs Bunny hits him over the head a bunch of times with a bat, and he's got this, stars flying around his head, and it's hilarious, as all little kids find the idea of knocking something senseless. And just as we're laughing about this, we see the Long Island Railroad pulls up, and there's this like a little window that's near the doors, and out the conductor sticks his head out and checks as the platform is clear, and he says, "Okay, go on," sending a signal to the other conductor. Doors close, and they pull off. Well, I said, "How many lumps do you think he wants with his tea?" And we all were laughed, and wasn't long before my other buddy said, "Well, I'll do it." And I said, "Do what?" He says, "Why don't we get a newspaper and hit him over the head when he sticks his head out the window?" And it immediately turned into dare, right? Like, "You won't do that." "Oh, I'll do that." "You won't do that." "Oh, I'll do it. I'll do it." And I remember my buddy, he went up there, and he's standing there on the platform. He has a magazine rolled up, and it's behind his back. And he's standing there, and we're waiting, and we're laughing, and we're waiting, and we're giggling, and then eventually the train pulls up, and he's just hanging out there. This is 1986. No, sorry. This is like 1990, maybe 89, 90, right? So, kid just standing on the train platform, I guess wasn't that out of the ordinary. And I see my buddy standing there, and he's in his stance, the stance that I knew him from having in Little League, where he was kind of like had one heel up, and he's got the paper behind his back, and he's just standing there, and the guy, older guy, thinking nothing of it, just a kid standing here on the platform, looks at him, then he looks up, looks down, and he gives the go-ahead signal, and as he turns back, whoa, Chris wallops him over the head and runs down we're like, oh my God, they did it. They stopped the train. The conductors run out. They don't even know what's going on. They have no idea what's going on. We're, a half a block away. We're just watching from the bushes. Oh my God, I can't believe you did it. I can't believe you did it. And he's like, I told you I'd do it. I told you I'd do it. And we are laughing and crying. And he wanted a lot of lumps with his tea. And we're laughing. And, then the next round comes around. Okay, I did it. Now you do it. Okay, all right, I can do it. And this was a really special, this time really stands out because I can put this as what I recall as being the moment of the end of my childhood. And there's a very specific reason for that because, as an adult, I can say, yeah, because I was doing something absolutely ridiculous and abusive to someone. But I'm standing there and I've got my newspaper rolled up, and obviously there's no cell phones, there's no real communication, so there was no notification to the next train. So the next train rolls around. They roll around every 30 minutes. And I'm standing there and I'm just, okay, just wait. They just comes up, train pulls up, guy gives me a nod. How you doing, kid? Just regular, unassuming train conductor. They weren't part of the MTA police at this point, so this was very beneficial to us as little delinquents. But, I'm just gearing myself up, and the train pulls up, and the guy sticks his head out the window, looks at me, gives me the nod, looks up the platform, down the platform, gives the go-ahead to the other conductor ahead, and as he turns his head back, I wallop him right over the head with this newspaper. And I hear and I start running. And I am running as fast as I possibly can. And I'm running so fast that I'm coming more and more up on my tippy toes. And on my tippy toes. And I was so young that I actually thought for about a second and a half that I might actually fly away. I thought I might leave the ground because I was still so young that I had Peter Pan dreams in my mind of this feeling of like, why is only the tips of my full foot was hitting, full hit, ball of my foot, toes. Oh my God, am I going to leave the ground? And no, I did not leave the ground. What I had was grown men chasing me for my life, because this was also at a time when they would have just beaten you and it would have been totally okay with my parents if I caught a beating from these guys and hitting them. They didn't catch me, but I just remember running and I was laughing. I had no idea of the consequence of what I was doing. But these are the risks that we thought were okay to take. And when I think back of saying, why in God's name would I do this to somebody? And, technically it didn't really stop there. We kept this up for the next 3 or 4 days. Then as they would pull into the station, they would be waiting with saying, oh, we're going to get you and you better not even think about it. And we'd be laughing at them. So then we were taking lemons and limes and we would be throwing them in at the windows, and it just set off this cascade of ridiculous behavior between me and my little group of friends and the conductors. So, was I a natural asshole? Sounds like it. We didn't get caught. We never had that physical comeuppance from it. But my ability to take big risks and not worry about very real consequences were quite prevalent in my youth. And when I read that book, and they specifically talked about how kids would rather be beaten than be grounded. They'd rather be hit